Scientific report: the impact of geomagnetic storms on racing pigeon navigation. Geomagnetic storms, resulting from solar wind disturbances interacting with Earth's magnetosphere, are known to have significant effects on various biological systems. This report examines the potential impact of geomagnetic storms on the navigation abilities of racing pigeons. Columba livia domestica, which rely on a combination of visual cues, olfactory signals, and the Earth's magnetic field for orientation during flight. Recent studies and anecdotal evidence from pigeon racing enthusiasts have raised concerns about the correlation between geomagnetic disturbances and an increased incidence of pigeons becoming lost or experiencing poor racing performance. This report synthesizes current scientific knowledge on geomagnetic storms and avian magnetoreception, and it explores the implications of these findings for the racing pigeon community. The conclusion highlights the need for further research to establish a definitive link between geomagnetic activity and pigeon navigation errors. Introduction: Racing pigeons have long fascinated both scientists and hobbyists due to their remarkable homing ability, which allows them to return to their lofts over vast distances. This homing ability is thought to involve a complex interplay of various sensory modalities, including the detection of the Earth's magnetic field. Geomagnetic storms, caused by disturbances in the solar wind that lead to variations in the Earth's magnetosphere, have been shown to affect the geomagnetic field and potentially disrupt biological systems that rely on it. The possibility that geomagnetic storms might interfere with the homing abilities of racing pigeons, causing them to become disoriented and lost, is of particular concern to the pigeon racing community. In this report, we aim to provide a comprehensive review of the scientific literature on geomagnetic storms and their potential effects on the magnetoreception of birds, with a focus on racing pigeons. We will discuss the mechanisms of pigeon navigation, the nature and characteristics of geomagnetic storms, and the evidence supporting a link between geomagnetic disturbances and pigeon disorientation. Finally, we will consider the implications for pigeon racing and outline directions for future research. Pigeons are known to use the sun's position and the landscape below them as visual cues for navigation. They can recognize familiar landmarks and use these to orient themselves. Olfactory cues. Research has shown that pigeons use olfactory cues to navigate, particularly when they are released in unfamiliar locations. The specific mechanisms remain unclear, but it is believed that pigeons might learn the odor landscape of their home area and use this information when navigating. Magnetoreception. One of the most studied aspects of pigeon navigation is their ability to detect the Earth's magnetic field. This magnetoreception is believed to be mediated by specialized cells containing magnetite particles, located in the upper beak, or possibly by cryptochromes in the eye. These structures allow pigeons to sense the intensity and direction of the Earth's magnetic field, which they use to orient themselves, particularly over long distances or when other cues are unavailable. Geomagnetic storms. Geomagnetic storms are major disturbances of the Earth's magnetosphere, caused by the interaction of the solar wind with the Earth's magnetic field. These storms are primarily driven by coronal mass ejections, CMEs, or high-speed solar wind streams emanating from the Sun, which inject large amounts of energy into the Earth's magnetosphere. Geomagnetic storms are characterized by several phases. Initial phase: the storm begins with a sudden increase in the magnetic field intensity, known as the sudden storm commencement, SSC, caused by a shockwave in the solar wind. Main phase: this is the period when the geomagnetic field is most disturbed, characterized by a significant reduction in the horizontal component of the magnetic field. Recovery phase: the magnetic field gradually returns to its normal state, although this phase can last several days. Geomagnetic storms can be measured using indices such as the KP index, which quantifies the disturbance level in the Earth's magnetic field. A KP index of 5 or more typically indicates a geomagnetic storm. The intensity and frequency of geomagnetic storms are influenced by the 11-year solar cycle, with more frequent and intense storms occurring near the solar maximum, when solar activity is highest. Impact of geomagnetic storms on biological systems. Geomagnetic storms can affect various biological systems that rely on the Earth's magnetic field for orientation and navigation. Studies have shown that migratory birds, marine animals, and even some humans may experience disorientation or other physiological effects during geomagnetic disturbances. In birds, magnetoreception is a well-documented phenomenon. Many bird species use the Earth's magnetic field as a compass to guide their migratory paths. Geomagnetic storms can alter the magnetic field lines and create fluctuations that may confuse birds and lead to navigational errors. Literature review: Geomagnetic storms and pigeon navigation. Evidence of magnetoreception in pigeons. The ability of pigeons to detect and respond to the Earth's magnetic field has been extensively studied. Early experiments by Keaton, 1971, demonstrated that pigeons released with magnets attached to their heads showed increased disorientation compared to controls, suggesting that pigeons use the Earth's magnetic field for navigation. Subsequent research has identified potential anatomical structures responsible for magnetoreception in pigeons, such as magnetite containing cells in the upper beak, Falkenberg et al., 2010, and cryptochrome proteins in the retina, Moritzen et al., 2004. The exact mechanisms by which pigeons sense and process magnetic information remain an active area of research. However, it is generally accepted that pigeons use the Earth's magnetic field as a component of their navigational toolkit, particularly when other cues are absent or unreliable. Geomagnetic storms and bird disorientation. Several studies have investigated the effects of geomagnetic storms on bird navigation. A notable study by Abel and Cherry, 1986, found that migratory birds exposed to artificially altered magnetic fields in a laboratory setting displayed disoriented behavior. In the wild, migratory birds have been observed to deviate from their usual migratory routes during periods of high geomagnetic activity. Gould, 2004. For racing pigeons specifically, anecdotal reports from pigeon fanciers have long suggested that geomagnetic storms might be linked to poor racing performance and increased losses. For example, pigeon racers have reported higher rates of lost birds during geomagnetically active periods, particularly when storms coincide with races. Wagner, 2007. Empirical studies on pigeons and geomagnetic activity. Despite the anecdotal evidence, empirical studies specifically examining the relationship between geomagnetic storms and pigeon navigation are relatively scarce. One of the few studies in this area, conducted by Wiltsko and Wiltsko, 1995, involved releasing pigeons during periods of varying geomagnetic activity and tracking their homing success. The study found that pigeons released during geomagnetic storms were more likely to become disoriented and fail to return to their lofts. Another study by Mora et al., 2004, used GPS tracking to monitor pigeon flight paths during geomagnetic disturbances. The results showed that pigeons often deviated from their intended flight paths during periods of high geomagnetic activity, suggesting that their magnetoreception abilities were compromised. While these studies provide some evidence for a link between geomagnetic storms and pigeon disorientation, the results are not entirely conclusive. Variability in pigeon homing performance could also be influenced by other factors such as weather conditions, atmospheric pressure changes, and the individual pigeon's experience and training. Discussion: mechanisms of geomagnetic storm impact on pigeon navigation. The exact mechanisms by which geomagnetic storms might affect pigeon navigation are not fully understood. However, several hypotheses have been proposed. Magnetic interference. Geomagnetic storms cause fluctuations in the Earth's magnetic field, which could interfere with a pigeon's ability to detect and interpret magnetic cues. The disturbances might create a noisy magnetic environment that overwhelms the pigeon's magnetoreception system, leading to disorientation. Magnetoreception disruption. The physiological basis of magnetoreception in pigeons, whether it involves magnetite-based receptors or cryptochromes, could be directly affected by the changes in the geomagnetic field. For example, the altered magnetic field might disrupt the alignment of magnetite particles or interfere with the light-dependent magnetic sensing in the retina. Psychological stress. Geomagnetic storms have been linked to increased stress levels in animals, including humans. It is possible that pigeons experience heightened stress during geomagnetic disturbances, which could impair their cognitive functions and decision-making abilities during navigation. Implications for pigeon racing. The potential impact of geomagnetic storms on pigeon navigation has significant implications for the pigeon racing community. Pigeon racing is a highly competitive sport, with significant financial and emotional investment in the performance of racing pigeons. Understanding the factors that influence pigeon navigation and performance is crucial for the success of the sport. If geomagnetic storms are indeed a significant factor in pigeon disorientation, pigeon fanciers might need to consider geomagnetic conditions when planning races. This could involve avoiding races during periods of high geomagnetic activity, or taking steps to mitigate the effects of geomagnetic disturbances on pigeons, such as adjusting training regimens or developing strategies to enhance pigeons' reliance on non-magnetic cues. Moreover, the pigeon racing community could benefit from increased collaboration with the scientific community to better understand the relationship between geomagnetic activity and pigeon performance. Advances in GPS tracking and magnetoreception research could provide valuable insights into how pigeons navigate and how geomagnetic storms impact their behavior. Future research directions. While there is some evidence linking geomagnetic storms to pigeon disorientation, more research is needed to establish a definitive causal relationship. Future studies could explore the following areas. Longitudinal studies. Conducting long-term studies that track pigeon racing performance and geomagnetic activity over multiple racing seasons could provide more robust data on the correlation between geomagnetic storms and pigeon losses. Controlled experiments, laboratory-based experiments that simulate geomagnetic storm conditions could help clarify the specific effects of magnetic disturbances on pigeon magnetoreception and navigation. Multifactorial analysis, investigating the interaction between geomagnetic activity and other environmental factors, such as weather and atmospheric conditions, could help disentangle the various influences on pigeon navigation. Technological integration, the use of advanced GPS and magnetometer devices on racing pigeons could provide detailed data on flight paths and magnetic field conditions during races, allowing for more precise analysis of how geomagnetic storms affect pigeon behavior. Conclusion: while the exact mechanisms remain unclear, the disturbances caused by geomagnetic storms likely create challenges for pigeons relying on magnetic cues for orientation. The potential for geomagnetic activity to influence racing outcomes underscores the need for the pigeon racing community to consider geomagnetic conditions when planning events. Further research is needed to confirm the extent of the impact and to develop strategies for mitigating the effects of geomagnetic storms on pigeon navigation. Collaboration between pigeon fanciers and scientists could lead to new insights and innovations that enhance the sport while preserving the welfare of the pigeons involved. As our understanding of geomagnetic phenomena and avian magnetoreception continues to evolve, the pigeon racing community will be better equipped to address the challenges posed by these natural forces. Get my main racing system, just email me direct. I'm an experienced ex-pigeon racer from England, and I can offer valuable insights and guidance on all aspects of pigeon racing, from breeding to racing. During my racing days, I managed a small team of no more than 70 pigeons, including stock, young birds, and old birds. It was not uncommon for me to send as few as 6 birds to a race and still secure the top 3 positions out of up to 2,500 pigeons in my club and federation. My race distances typically ranged up to 300 miles, and I consistently achieved top 5 placements in my club. My expertise extends to the art of selecting excellent breeders, including evaluating pigeons based on their eye sign characteristics. I firmly believe that true champions can only be bred from top quality stock, and I can guide you in identifying and acquiring such pigeons. I understand that many pigeons for sale are advertised based on their lineage or pedigree, but I emphasize the importance of assessing the bird itself rather than relying solely on paperwork. As part of my offer, I invite you to share photos of your pigeons, including their eye sign and wing characteristics. I'll provide you with free advice on racing and breeding based on my extensive experience and knowledge. Additionally, I will share auction links to high-quality breeding birds that have the potential to produce winners in your loft. Here's what you can expect to receive from me: a comprehensive Word document containing valuable insights and strategies for successful pigeon racing, including specific racing methods for both old and young birds, as well as general advice. Private YouTube videos sent to your email, covering various aspects of pigeon racing, from breeding to race preparation. Detailed recommendations on supplements and additives to add to your pigeons' drinking water, with scientific evidence supporting their effectiveness. Similar products are used by professional athletes and racehorses to enhance performance. Assurance that your pigeons will race home faster, provided that you have quality birds to begin with.